Have you ever felt like it's just extra hard for you to let go and move on? If you answered yes to this question, then I ask you, are you ready to feel loved and liberated? Are you ready to experience freedom in your love life and relationships? Welcome to the Universal Love Story. I am Lauren K. Wyatt, love psychic, illusion dismantler, and owner of Love Renegades. In this episode, we are going to dive deep into the law of absorption, the law of love that separates us from love by keeping us locked in the past in ways that we wouldn't even think we were locked into the past. This law of love is all about attachment to how things should look, how things did look, and it's also about neglecting your own needs. In this episode, you will become aware of how to break the law of absorption and break free from all of those things that keep you locked into patterns that you no longer want to be in. And as a result, you will learn how you can feel loved and liberated and completely supported and free in all of your relationships. At soul level, you really are a healer. It's just your presence. So a huge part of what you get to really embrace in this lifetime and for our next 3 months together is allowing yourself to receive. Divine love can like flip it and have a lash out.
I've gotten much better at controlling my temper, but then it just manifests in rashes instead.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because you're gonna find that the more you let people love you and the more you can ask for what you want, and also if you do inventory of your different relationships and you see which ones you are feeling resentful in. We all have souls, and every soul has gifts. And sometimes we totally do not see our gifts as gifts. Instead, we experience them as a liability or as a hindrance. And this can come out where, sometimes we tell ourselves that we're too sensitive, that we feel things too deeply. And in Nicole's case, this is a huge part of who she is, to be sensitive and to feel things deeply. And in Nicole's experience, she has felt drained in her relationships, and it's made her really want to keep herself at arm's length with people because she's had so many patterns of disappointment where people don't step up to the plate for her. This is something that would drive anybody mad. I don't care what your gifts are. Being in situations like that over and over again is frustrating. And when you are in a situation that seems really frustrating, and when it's gone on forever and ever and ever, it's really time for you to look within by connecting with your heart. Your heart can really give you the honest truth if you're willing to listen. And ask yourself, where am I tolerating? What am I settling for? And you may not like the wisdom that comes through for you in this. You may have so many reasons on why you can't change, why you can't do things differently. And I can tell you that that is just simply not true. There are usually more than one or two ways to approach any situation. And if you want to break free of the law of absorption, then I ask you to please be open to that. And if you are, and if you can take actions to change things, then you really can set yourself free and you can enjoy your gifts, because it's not your gifts that are the issue. It's not your talents that are the issue. It's not how you've made things that are so wonderful about you, your biggest flaws. Sometimes you need to remove yourself from your environment, or you need to let people know what you want.
And I study psychology, and so I try to recognize, like I use the things that I've learned to recognize what is small for me might be very big for somebody else, and vice versa. There's a theory of like threshold, and I have a very small threshold, and I would rather just do it myself if I feel like it's going to be a situation that causes more grief by asking someone else to do it. They use a comparison of like the garbage can. The garbage appears to be full to me, but not to anybody else if I expect someone else to take it out because I assume that they have the same perspective as me, then I'm causing myself grief unnecessarily. Whereas if I just took the second to take out the garbage or tried to...
Or asked.
Right.
You get to, that's your homework, is to just ask.
Right, but then I'm also asking them to see my perspective.
Yeah.
Which is not always fair.
Is just because you can do something doesn't mean that you have to.
Right.
Okay? And it's totally okay to say no.
As I rewatched bits of Nicole's episode, I noticed that even though she is a mover and shaker, she is so successful and resourceful, a lot of the things that she does, especially as it pertains to different relationships and in her love life, are outdated. And really, this again says that if you really want things to change, then you have to be willing to change yourself. And some of us can say, yes, I'm willing to change, but sometimes we're just not. Like, we're not at that point. Sometimes we have so much going on and a lot of unresolved things that are happening within our heart. Our heart could be in conflict. It could be in the middle of healing. And this is what often happens when actions don't match up with words, or when the actions are just simply not aligned actions to take. So if you feel like you have been doing everything to resolve situations with other people, everything to have what you want as you go to craft a relationship, or as you go to heal with your significant other, if you feel like you're doing everything, and if you have so many reasons on why you have to continue doing these things, I want to ask you, are you willing to be wrong? It's hard to be wrong. It's hard to admit that. But if you can really say, yes, I'm willing to be wrong, then guess what? You can start to create miracles for yourself. You can start to open up to what is possible and to align to that energy through your new actions.
Even if you feel at first like you're being selfish or putting yourself before other people, it's how it'll feel at first, but you're going to notice how much more loving and giving and energized you are when you're honest with yourself about what you want to experience. Mm-hmm. But just to acknowledge these things so that, we can start making changes. People are often very afraid of change, and the thing that you're really good at is change. Mm-hmm. In a lot of your relationships, you're sacrificing, not the words that you used. Mm-hmm. But you notice that you're always taking the lead and doing everything.
I always feel like there's all these implied expectations, whether or not they're actually discussed, and that kind of cause me to compromise things that are important to me in order to do or have the things that are important to either my partner or the relationship. And I don't feel like that's healthy, and I don't feel like it's necessary either, because they're just implied. They're me making assumptions about the relationship and how it needs to go based on my partner. And I don't feel like it needs to go that route, but I'm definitely guilty of it.
Again, this is a great opportunity for boundaries, so that when you go to date again, and the guy starts exhibiting things, or you notice old patterns of yours kicking up, that you get to make a new choice. You get to say, you know what, I can sense that you would like this for me, but I'm not willing to do that. And then just see what happens.
As far as the intimacy aspect of that goes, I am really good about setting boundaries, and I make it like a joke, but it's, you know, like I'm never trying to say that somebody is going to cross my boundaries, but I make it very clear what the ramifications will be if they do try. But I'm just not as good in the emotional aspect. Like I end up with that intimacy aspect, just giving and giving and giving.
Would you mind giving me an example?
Right. Well, like you know, like a joke that I tell people, like even if I am exploring sexuality with them, is if you hit me, I will hit you back in a place that you will not be real happy about.
Sure.
And it's really that simple.
I think it's really powerful that you're aware of what your sexual boundaries are.
I don't want there to be any confusion or misconceptions.
I want to know, like, why he ended it with you abruptly, right? Did he give you any, like, feedback on why he was leaving? Were there signs?
We're still friends, and we talk pretty much every day. I totally stress him out. My personality is one that he just gets really stressed out by. He's very calm. We talk, but from my perspective, our relationship was really good. The details of it are that I had just recently moved in with him a few months before, because his most common complaint was that I was too busy to have a healthy relationship, and it was true. So while I reorganized other aspects of my life, we moved in together. And I have a child who then went to the school in the neighborhood and everything. You know, there's stress involved in blending families and all of that. During the fight, he asked us to leave under no uncertain terms, you know, like, pack your stuff and I want you out of my house. And
So
the next day he apologized and wanted to take it back, but a child had experienced losing the, you know, safety of his home, and I don't feel like that was compromisable.
what you were just now telling me is it really, like, triggered this beggar archetype in you, because he threw you guys out on the streets.
Yeah, and honestly, it was a blessing. It worked out really well.
It's okay.
But at the time, all I could think, and I didn't cry, I didn't react, I showed no anger.
Well, let's say that you didn't have a child, or let's say that your child was visiting his dad when this awful, horrible blowout happened and you were thrown out. How would you have handled it?
The situation would have been different, because I would have been more receptive to meeting with him the next day to discuss whether or not the relationship was really salvageable. Well, a big lesson that I always try to teach him is that there's no good or bad, there's just your reaction. And so when we got in the car, and I was just very calm, and I said, we're going to go find a nice hotel to stay in.
I want to know if you have really connected with the amount of disrespect and hatred, and like how he just tossed you aside like you were no one.
Yeah, I don't take that very personally.
I love that you're not taking it personally. I think that's great. I'm kind of getting that you're not, that it's like we have this child here, and I'm not asking you to, like, get in your shit if it's not there. But in the same way that you look after your son and that you mother other people, have you connected with yourself about what it was like?
I think that, you know, from that experience, this project was birthed. So I think that I have, to the best of the ability, like, I'm really good about compartmentalizing things until I feel like I can open it up and really look at it. And I feel like I've peeked in that box and I've been like, that's not mine.
I'll explore it more later.
But I also feel like we can validate that you are not treated with love and respect.
No, and I've been in, plenty of situations where that's the case.
Something that Nicole has become a master at is detaching in a way that really neglects her own needs and avoids changes that she could make to have what it is that she wants. This is what happens when we do something that many of us could look at as like compartmentalization. It's like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to get it done at all costs. And this is what I've been doing forever. This is what someone else told me to do. I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to detach my emotional body from it. And it's all going to be fine because I know how to handle this situation. I've seen other people handle it. This is how most people handle things like this. Now, the issue with that is that the heart is not on board. And I can tell you, if there is anything that you want, whether it's having an incredible relationship, enhancing the relationship that you're already in, any experience or circumstances that you would just love, if your heart is not on board with what it is that you're doing, then you're not going to get what you want.
I'm trying to be more of a grown-up, I guess is the way I'm putting it. I always do everything I'm supposed to do, but oftentimes it's in sweatpants and a t-shirt and no shoes. So I'm trying to, learn how to be a grown-up in society. I don't like attention, so that's been kind of a struggle.
But there's something is there something that you wish people would notice about you or acknowledge you for? Just as embarrassing as it might be, is there anything?
There's not a thing. Oftentimes the way that I look interferes with people getting to know me because I'm not the way that I look like I would be. So I guess just more like I wish people would notice my personality more than the way that I look like I would be. When I was younger, I was very overweight.
What's going on with dating and this story about how you look?
Well, just oftentimes people will want to go on a date with me based on the way that I look, and then they meet me, and the whole time I'm spending the time being like, this is who I am, not this. So I literally have gone to a first date with someone that I was really excited to meet 15 minutes after leaving a Krav Maga session. So sweaty, no makeup, in my workout clothes.
You would show up to a date sweaty, and what that does is there's almost, and I understand why you're doing it, so no judgment from me, like I get it, but there's like this, it's time for you to start doing things differently, because the message that you're sending across is I don't care about you. And I don't really care about me either. And I don't care about this date or what's possible, even though I know that you're like, if you can see me. So I totally get it. And I'm just saying that may have worked.
Well, I've never been not asked out on a second date.
So I'm sure
I feel like it's like
it works. Obviously, like you're going to be attractive no matter if you've been rolling around in the dirt. There's nothing.
But I feel like it hopefully takes the focus off of
But I mean energetically.
Yeah.
Energetically, that's what I mean. Like it may work, but for you to have a new experience, it's time for you to. You have it down. You accept and you love yourself. That's great. So why not just for you to enjoy the experience and to see what it's like to feel like someone's physically attracted to you and who can connect with you. This is like a new level for you. But the energy behind it's not that there's anything wrong with going to a date, like not wearing shoes or in your sweats. Like, that's not it, but the energy behind it was like, don't fuck with me.
Right.
And that, you don't need that edge anymore.
Well, that's really what
You've proven yourself. See, look, the whole clothing thing, it's like an interesting story.
Mm.
It's a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's keeping you from connecting with people and sharing your heart with someone. And I know how you love, how you can love. Like, you're the type of person where if it's on, you'll fall in love with someone in the first date.
Mm-hmm.
And you might even tell them. So all of this drama is to stop you from doing that. Like, you're pushing people away. And you're making people prove that they still love you even though you're acting like eccentric. And what used to work before, like, things are changing. So you may need to wear a few dresses and to really get in touch with how you feel. Like, notice the drama. Like, yes, like this, like the anxiety and the drama and the story's here. I get it. We've been doing this for years. Cool. But when this is like just here, like, what's really happening here? Because do you want to recap just a little?
Well, the homework that you gave me involved me being, more open to going on dates and taking them more seriously. And I have done that. I've been on several dates, and I wore a dress. I know, it was a big deal.
Girl.
And I was in a state of panic for like a week over it beforehand. But yeah, it went really well. Take it more seriously.
You mentioned that you're enjoying dating, but the focus is more on you right now.
Right.
Could you expand a little on that for me?
I feel like I'm probably not really emotionally ready to connect to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to enjoy the experience as much as possible and changing the things about like my perception on dating, so that when I do become emotionally ready, I'm in a better place to be able to successfully date.
It's been the opposite of how you've approached relationships because you have extraordinary emotional intelligence and you're so tuned in with everyone else.
Yeah. I feel like that wasn't really a strength with my last relationship, which is weird when I reflect back on it, because it was the one where like I feel like my gifts really would have benefited, and just life was so busy, and it's just interesting for me to be able to like reflect back on that and see where the things that I'm inherently notorious for just didn't play out in that particular situation.
Totally. And so I wanted to talk to you about that, and something that I noticed when you gave me those answers, those very insightful and heartfelt answers to those tough questions.
Yeah, they were tough.
These are sometimes my style can be a little confrontive, and it's not to play gotcha, it's just so that you can really look and rewire your brain and your response to things, which you did. So as I watched your answers to those questions there in your weekly video journal, what really came forth in that session, and the experience that I had watching these, is just this feeling of guilt that I feel like you have. And I wanted to talk to you about the guilt, because I feel like it's holding you back a lot. You get to trust yourself, and maybe yes, maybe something could have been handled better, but experiences give us the wisdom and the perspective from which we can move forward. Nicole, you have a tendency, and a huge part of any exhaustion you've been feeling is that you'll do other people's work for them. And even now that you and your ex have been broken up for a few months, you're still trying to do the work. And you're beating yourself up.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm having a really hard time letting go of that situation, which is not normal for me.
While I like that you're acknowledging things that you could have done differently, I'm going to invite you to give yourself the same compassion and space and love that you give to other people. So instead of being in regret over what you could or could have done, like that's how you can really separate yourself from love. Instead, tune into what's possible. This isn't about anything that you did wrong or badly. I'm going to offer you a perspective that your guide is ushering my way. So we can create these significant relationships in our lives. And sometimes we think this is the one, I'm in love, this is forever. And then forever isn't the case.
Right.
And there's a huge heartbreak that comes from that. Now, if you can take a few steps back and then up, kind of look at everything, what you'll see is that there are certain themes that other souls support us with experiencing. And these themes can, the only way that we get to experience them is through that other person.
Right.
So, this man, and you did this for him as well, because we've talked about the breakup before. He was not innocent in all of this. Everybody has their piece of the pie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you experienced this groundbreaking, and I don't like the word lesson, but it's what's I personally don't like it. But there is something in your spiritual development and in your path to joy and your self-expression where you needed to experience what happens when you can't see anything outside of what's immediately in front of you.
Okay.
And how that works sometimes, but in other times when because you're a super doer. You're an action taker. This is why you're an amazing leader, because you'll do what needs to be done. And what I am getting was so huge for you is when you're in that mode, if you can just take a step back and breathe and just connect with your heart and ask does this ultimately serve who I want to become? Is there another way I can do this? It doesn't have so much sacrifice in it. Is there support that I can ask? Can I communicate how I feel to someone? So that you're not even in that position anymore where you have so much on your shoulders.
It's just so not a part of my personality. And I do it just automatically.
Mm-hmm. So you need to train yourself, because these are things that again are really good. These are traits that are really, really good. And just so yes, keep going, keep pursuing things, but just like how a 2-year-old, like when you're potty training, like they're 2 or 3, you need to check in, hey, is it time to go pee-pee? You know? And then like every half an hour, I babysat the other day, that's why I'm bringing this up. You know, you check in with them. Just check in with yourself.
By connecting with her heart and through listening to its wisdom and what it had to share with Nicole, she was able to really start loving herself more and breaking free of the law of absorption by just acknowledging the heartache that was there and having her really courageous spirit and her can-do attitude and applying that to her and what she needs. So how does this law of love impact you and your relationships? I would love to know. So please leave a comment with your experiences, your insights, and any questions that you have. And please join us in the Revolt for Love, Love Revolution Facebook group. Coming up on the next episode of the Universal Love Story.
Hello, my name is Victoria, and I'm speaking to you from Austin, Texas. Oftentimes, I think the career that people choose can say a little bit about who that person is, and I definitely think that is my case. This year, I celebrate 10 years of working in the health insurance business, and this is what you'll find on my profile if you were to find me on one of those dating sites, those horrible dating sites, by the way. I'm a foodie, which means I really enjoy healthy, good foods. And if I could find a partner, and I've had them in the past, by the way, if I could find a partner who also enjoys cooking, it makes for a really good, healthy relationship. The second one is culture. I like going to the museum, I like going to the theater, I like to hear music, whether that's going to a concert or maybe an outdoor festival, both are fun. That next one says citizen activists. What does that mean? That means there is a lot going on in the world, and I'm very passionate about several different areas, and what's happening in politics particularly, I want to make sure that I have a voice and that people can hear what matters most to me. And then right there at the bottom, it says active. I am always on the go. I like to go hiking, I like to go bike riding, I go kayaking, whatever it is that can get me outside and moving my body. These are some of the qualities that I'm looking for in a partner. Mindful, creative. Creative is really important and can be expressed in so many different ways. Loyal. This one is important to me because I give loyalty and I absolutely expect it in return. Intellectual. Stimulating conversations are very sexy to me. And then adventurous, because like I noted earlier, I like to go. When Laura and I talk about my life, this is the word that comes up, vibrant. And the definition of vibrant is energetic, exciting, full of enthusiasm, and full of life. So this is my life. I don't have a busy life, I have a vibrant life, which sounds more exciting and positive. So have you ever heard this expression? Can't see the forest for the trees? Well, on this journey, it's my goal to make sure that I continue to not get lost in the details, not get wrapped up in what I'm doing from today to tomorrow, the next day, that I forget to see the forest through the trees, or see the trees through the forest, however, which way you want to look at it. And so when we talk about the journey and what my expectations are or what I hope to gain, not necessarily expectations, but my goal is just to continue down this path that I've been on. I've moved to Austin 3.5 years ago, and if I look at my life 3.5 years ago to where I am today, there's been a lot of growth in all areas of my life. And the goal of this project is just to help me continue on that journey with the end result is finding my dream relationship.